Rhonda Jordan, for those of you who have not had the opportunity to be on a live with me. And I want to welcome those of you that are, in fact, here with me live. Or if you are watching the replay, by all means, I'm saying hello to you as well. If in fact you are live, I would love to have you drop in your information so that I know that or know where it is that you're connecting from. It's always great. I'm just checking to make sure everything's good. Let's see here. Okay, it looks like I always feel more comfortable when I check to make sure that everything is in fact working as it should. Okay, we are absolutely live. So, again, my name is Rhonda Jordan. I want to welcome those of you that have connected, and it's time for us to get into this training. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that I encourage all of you to grab a pen and paper and take notes on because this will definitely come in handy for you at some point. I can tell you that all successful content creators actually use this method. And if in fact you need to ever deploy it, as I like to say, and you really should be using it regularly anyway, then what it's going to allow you to do is not to be so content creation overworked, if in fact we can create a new term here, because oftentimes that burnout factor is real for people. And so I want to make sure that you understand that there is a way that you can have content that you create one time that continues to work for you over and over and over again. So let's go ahead and get right into the training. I'm going to be referring to my notes. So if you see me looking down, you'll know what it is that what it is that I'm doing. And by all means, if as you are listening to this content, if you have any questions, definitely feel free to drop those into the chat. I'll be monitoring that and we'll answer those questions as we go along. All right. So, one of the things that I hear a lot from people who are brand new is, they're just wondering about how they can get off of the content creation hamster wheel, if you will. Because if in fact you are growing a business, let's say on some of the platforms such as, YouTube or Instagram, or I'm sorry, not YouTube as much, but Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and some of the others that are out there, the necessity to create content is very real. And the reason for that is because once you put something out there, let's say it's a reel, it's going to be present in the algorithm, if you will, for a period of time, but then eventually it's going to just die off. And that's because there's so much content that is being created that, it's almost as if you're in a competition. Now, I'm not saying that that doesn't happen on other platforms that you might be on, but the reality is it definitely requires that you create a lot of content. Well, for a lot of people, they either don't want to do that level of content creation, they don't have the time, they don't have, the energy, whatever it is. And so I'm a very much a believer in creating content that is going to live on for a period of time. And that type of content is referred to as evergreen content. It's the type of content that's going to be relevant today, it's going to be relevant next week, and it's going to be relevant next year and beyond. Let me give you a quick example of content that's considered to be evergreen. If you have ever wanted to change a light fixture at your house and you went to YouTube and you typed in how to change a light fixture on my deck or wherever it happens to be, videos are going to pop up, multiple videos. And if you look at the dates on some of those videos, they're going to be 8, 10, 12 years old, but they're still getting views simply because the content is still relevant. And so that is what I refer to when I'm talking about evergreen content. Now, we're all going to create some content that might only be relevant for a period of time because things do change. We all know that. But there are some topics that you can, in fact, create that will continuously get views for you, particularly if you're using a platform such as YouTube. Now, if this is your first time with me, you may not know, but pretty much everything that I create is strictly for YouTube. I rarely post anything on Facebook. I rarely post anything on Instagram. And I really just have those platforms out there for people that might want to connect with me. They find me on YouTube and they need a way to connect. And because YouTube doesn't really have a DM type feature, that's the way most people will connect with me. So I focus mostly on YouTube I focus exclusively on YouTube. And what I can tell you is because of the way that I create content, my content sits out there and continues to get views. I like that because, in my personal opinion, that is working very, very smart as opposed to working hard. Now, I want to also share a personal story with you of why you should really consider. I'm not going to tell you you have to create it, but you should really consider creating evergreen type content. Over the last, or starting in, I want to say November of 2023, maybe it was October of 2023, up until a little over a month ago, both my husband as well as my grandmother were sick. I mean, sick to the point my husband had two major operations and so forth. So there wasn't a lot of time for me to spend creating content. But here's what happened. My content, my videos on YouTube continue to get views. During that time frame, I want to say it was from maybe July or maybe August through about October. Yeah, about that time frame, probably about 4 months or so. I did not release a single video. But here's what happened. My channel continued to grow. I think I got over 1,900 subscribers. I got monetized from the content that had been created. And it was simply because people were finding the content that I had created and they were continuing to watch it. And then it got picked up by Google. So the search engines were picking it up. And when people were typing in search terms or keywords, as we'll refer to them, that they were being referred to my videos. Now, I don't tell you this for any other reason other than to show you that evergreen content absolutely works. And this is something that you want to think about. For example, if you have an upcoming family vacation, if you want to take that time off, let's say in during the holidays, you know, those couple of weeks between Christmas and New Year's, you know, that time frame about the 15th or so through the end of December, where everything is just hustle and bustle and parties and so forth. Well, using evergreen content is a great way to keep showing up. So, and you can schedule a lot of this content. So, I'm going to share with you also some tools that you can use that will allow you to do that as well. All right. So, why use evergreen content, and what type of content can you produce for your particular niche? Well, one of the things that I mentioned early on was videos. Now, if in fact you're really not into videos, then I might have to talk to you a little bit because videos can really serve you well. But there are other types of content that you can create that's going to be relevant. So for example, if in fact you are creating content, then you can come up with tutorial style content or taking a topic and breaking it down into tips. Again, it needs to be something that's going to be relevant today, next week, next year, and several years into the future. Now, I'm not saying that tools and business tools that you can use to create that content won't change, but the basic concept is going to be the same. Now, when you are looking at this, you can look at a variety of ways that you can create this. One of the things that I like to do is tutorial videos. So, for example, The videos that were just getting a lot of views during that time frame that I was away and not creating anything, they were tutorial style videos where people were looking for something that would teach them a concept that they either didn't understand, were struggling with, or just didn't know how to implement. And so I had tutorial videos that allowed people to learn something from start to finish. And some of them were really quick, like 1 or 2 minute videos. Others were lengthy, like 20 to 30-minute videos. Now, you can also do more than that. But my point is, those types of videos do exceptionally well. Now, you could, or I could have also taken those tutorial style videos and cut them up into chunks and use them as, let's say, shorts on YouTube. Now, I chose not to do that because I don't really do a lot with shorts on YouTube. Now, that's not saying that I won't ever do that, but if in fact I wanted people that jumped on and were looking to learn something, I wanted to give them something from, the starting point all the way through the ending point. So using things like that would be a great way to do it, tutorial style videos. Now, another thing that you could do is take a concept and break it down into tips, and then you could put it into like a carousel. And then with this type of content, you can share it over and over again. So let me give you an example, and I'm going to show you some numbers here in a second to show you why and how this stuff really works. But if in fact you create content that is evergreen, you should probably be sharing that on a regular basis. So, a good example of something that I like to share on a regular basis is an ebook playlist that I created. It actually has about, I don't know, 7 or 8 videos in it. I'm going to show you that in just a second. But the thing about this particular playlist is people come into it from various videos and then they end up watching the others that are part of this series. So, as I was mentioning, you can always make sure that you have an entry point, if you will, and then build on that content so that you have something that people can see on a regular basis. So let me do this. I'm going to start sharing my screen here. And then what I'm going to do is to show you, let's see here, move this over. All right, I'm going to show you this particular playlist, the ebook playlist, and I like to say this is the one that really carried me through during a time where where I wasn't able to really focus on my business. So let me just expand this a little bit. Let's see if I can get this. Sorry for this, but I want you to be able to see the views on this. So this is the playlist, if you will. But what I want you to be able to see is the number of views that these videos are picking up. And it's because they are evergreen. So, how to create an ebook in Canva step by step, how to write an ebook fast, how to sell an ebook, and so forth. And as you go through, you'll see that the various components of this playlist have or videos of this playlist get a lot of views. Now, I mentioned that I share this regularly. I probably share or create a post that makes reference to this video series, this playlist. I probably do that, I would say, every 6 weeks or so. And I'll come at it from a different angle. So I'll say something like, for example, if you want to learn how to create a clickable table of contents for your ebook, then check out this. And what I will do is I'll also make reference to the fact that it's part of a playlist. So if they want the full playlist, they can watch that as well. So I want you, as you're thinking, as you're creating content, what I want you to do is to make sure that you are sharing that content more than once, because remember, only a small percentage of your audience is ever going to even see this content. And so you have to share it regularly in order for people to have an opportunity to see it. So if you share it, let's say in June, then maybe you need to share it again in July, whatever your evergreen pieces of content are. And maybe you need to share it, again in August, depending on, what type of content it is. But sharing content that is evergreen is should absolutely be part of your strategy. Now, when you are a solopreneur, which most people watching this probably are, you also want to use the evergreen content concept as something that you're going to be, incorporating into your overall strategy because there are going to be times where you also need to focus on other aspects of your business. So if you have a variety of, let's say, evergreen content in the form of videos or short tips or whatever, you can share that and get it scheduled out over the course of, let's say, a couple of weeks. And so that way, if in fact you're working on another project within your business, let's say that you're working on creating a lead magnet or you are working on creating a digital product. Well, one of the things that you're able to do is because you've got that content scheduled out and much of it is evergreen, you don't have to worry so much other than doing something that will allow you to, let's say, respond to the comments or questions that people might have. But now you're freed up to work on something else. And I can't tell you how well this strategy I can't stress to you the importance of how well this strategy actually works simply because it allows you to have more flexibility. Now, another thing is when you have evergreen content and you're doing tutorials and so forth, the other thing it's going to do is it really allows people to see what it is that you know. It like allows you to display your knowledge because you can go deep. As I was mentioning to you before about the ebook masterclass playlist, as I like to call it, it shows people I know what I'm talking about when I'm creating ebooks simply because I'm going from start to finish. I'm teaching people how to research it. I'm teaching people how they can start to outline it. I'm teaching people what they should incorporate into their ebooks. I'm teaching people prompts that they can use with chat gpt, let's say. And then after that video concludes, then I show them how to move it over into Canva and use Canva to create an awesome version of that. And of course, afterwards, there are other things you have to do with your ebook. So, all I'm saying is it allows you to really put on display what your content is. All right. So, as I mentioned before, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop those into the chat and I'll be happy to answer those. Now, another reason is with this type of content, and I have to tell you, this will also allow you an end to be able to grow your email list because, as I said, people are seeing that you're knowledgeable. And so, if you then, in fact, have a lead magnet that works with your evergreen content or shows people that there's a way that they can go deeper with you by requesting your lead magnet, it's a perfect lead in to be able to grow your email list as well. So, evergreen content is going to do a lot. As I said, it's going to free you up, it's going to showcase your knowledge if you expand on it. It's also going to allow you time to take away from your business if in fact you need to because you're not having to post to Instagram, let's say 3 or 4 times a day, brand new content. You can reuse or incorporate some of the content that you've already created that's going to be relevant in an ongoing basis. All right, so now, hey Alyssa, I just wanted to say hello to you. I see you're on there. So, all right, now let's also talk about how this content works while you're sleeping because this is probably one of the things that I love about this type of content. One of the things that you're going to find is because people are finding this type of content at all hours of the night because again you could be sleeping, they're wide awake on whatever platform they're on, viewing your evergreen content. And what you're going to start to see is what you're going to wake up with people who are now saying, "Oh my goodness, I have a question about this," or "Oh my goodness, this was exactly what I was looking for." Or if you have it tied into a product, a digital product of yours, or an affiliate product, you're going to wake up to sales. That is something that I experience on a regular basis now. And again, it's because I've shown people concepts that they've wanted to learn. And I'm using the ebook. There are other pieces of content, but this one has been really, really successful for me. And so then I can lead them into other products that I have. I can lead them into, for example, the platform that I suggest they use to sell their digital products, which is in this case would be their ebook. And so it's not uncommon for me to wake up and people have opted in to the selling platform that I recommend as well. And they're not doing it for me. They're doing it for their own personal gain, which I'm all for. This is all about making sure that you get what you want. And you want to think that same way about your customers. What can you do to help them out? And then that in turn, because you're helping them out, that's allowing you to wake up to sales the next morning or wake up to people opting into your email list or, purchasing affiliate products that you might be representing. So that is another thing that it's going to do. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is really, some of the better formats. As I mentioned, if I can talk you into video, then by all means, I want to talk you into doing video. And sometimes you may not want to show your face. Well, you could do tutorial style video. So, as you'll notice, with a lot of the videos that I do, all of them, I'm going to show my face. I'm not going to tell you I don't because I do. But oftentimes, I'm sharing my screen. So you'll see a little, picture of me in the corner, but most of what people are looking at is the actual screen, and that allows them to follow along. So, tutorial style, as I mentioned before, is an incredible way for you to create evergreen type of content. Now, another thing that I think is really good in terms of content is, for example, quick tips that people can implement right away. So, if you're doing a reel or you're doing a short, you can show somebody a quick tip in 30 to 45 seconds that they can incorporate very quickly. Oftentimes, with those quick tips, you're again not even showing your face. So, if in fact you're a little concerned about that, that is by all means a great way to do things. Another thing is going to be a frequently asked question or a resource list. So you can make post out of that. If you don't want to make a reel or anything like that, you can actually just create a post. Let me see if I can show you an example. One of the things that I did was I created not too long ago a community post or a post on my Facebook. I'm sorry, my YouTube community page. And it was a list of books that I recommend to all new solopreneurs, actually, to all solopreneurs, because it definitely has. Let's see if I can get into that. It definitely has. Um, a lot of books that have helped me over the years. And so, let's see here. I think I can find it. Here it is. And then I'll share my screen again so you can see that. Okay, so this is, let's see if I can expand this out a little bit. This is my YouTube community page. And so one of the things that I did is I created this list of books that I recommend. Now, why is this important? This is a perfect example of evergreen content because you know what? These books are relevant now. They're going to be relevant next week. They're going to be relevant in 3 to 5 years. And so, if somebody is looking for books that can help them, this is a great way or a great list that they can, for example, take a copy of and then when they are in need of that particular book to help them with a, challenge that they're experiencing or whatever, they can refer back to this. So this is a great example. As I mentioned, frequently asked questions. What you could also do is you could go back and create a frequently asked questions list. So let's say your niche is, I don't know, scrapbooking. And there are some frequently asked questions that people are always coming to you or listing, in your comments or wherever it is that they happen to be listing content. And you're able to then say to them, I've created or compiled a list of frequently asked questions, and I'm going to just drop those in. You can do them as a single post where you do one question per day. You can do them as a list, however, it is that you think it's going to be most effective for people. But what that's going to allow you to do is, again, give them a reference point that they can come back to. Now, as I mentioned, I do everything pretty much on YouTube. So I use the YouTube community post page for this. Now, here's the thing about the YouTube community post page, and I'm saying this because some of you may not realize this. YouTube's community posts get shared out like a For You page that you would see on other platforms. So it's not just your subscribers that are seeing those posts, it's anybody. So if somebody is scrolling through and they see that, and all of a sudden you have, let's say, a frequently asked questions list about a particular topic, scrapbooking, let's say. Now, that may be a way for them to find you. Secondly, it might be a way for them to start viewing your content. Thirdly, it might be a way for them to want to connect with you either as a follower, subscriber, or perhaps even grab your lead magnet if, in fact, you have something like that as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. Another thing would be tools. So, if in fact there are tools that you use in your business, I recommend and use System IO. I share that with a lot of individuals. So, a lot of walkthroughs. I do a lot of, and I guess you could call those tutorials, but sometimes I'm not doing a full tutorial. I'm just sharing a specific aspect of that tool. That would be something else you could do. So, think in terms of how you can incorporate this into your business and the topic that or your niche, and figure out what types of evergreen topics you can come up with that you can start creating content around. And I'm encouraging you to do this because, as I said, when you create this type of content, it's content you can continue to share, but it's also content that you can use in the event that you need to step away from your business for a period of time. I can't tell you how many people I have talked to that, for example, because they primarily are sharing content, let's see, on Instagram, for example, I'm just going to use that. They don't feel like they can take time away from their business because if they do, the algorithm stops rewarding them. And they're not wrong about that. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't get back into the favor of the algorithm, but the thing is, if in fact you have a content bank, which is what I teach the people that I work with, what I teach them to create, now you've got something you can constantly pull from. Now, what's a content bank? A content bank is nothing more than a collection of content that you can share. Now, that collection of content is going to include, of course, evergreen content. It's going to include things like tips. It's going to include pictures of you. It's going to include, things that relate to your specific content pillars. And you should have that set up in such a way that you can easily grab it and post it if you need to. Now, the reason why that's important is that way you're not always playing the game of trying to figure out what it is you're going to post because you have something you can pull from. I pull from my evergreen content bank on the regular because, again, I don't want to be on the hamster wheel of creating content. But the other reason why I pull from that is I understand that, and I'm hoping that you understand this as well. The algorithm is only showing any of your content to about 3 to 4% of your audience at any given time, which means 96 to 97% of your audience has not seen your content. The other thing you have to also keep in mind is that there will be new people that will find you after you've shared a piece of content. So you can always go back into that content bank and then pull from it and repost it. Now, sometimes you might want to repurpose it into a different format. And I've done that even with my evergreen content. Sometimes I'll repurpose it into a different format. So, for example, with the ebook content, the ebook videos content, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just pull out of there a question, or I'll pull out of there, let's say, for example, a specific tip that I know has been really helpful, not just to me, but to others as well. And then what I'm able to do is repurpose that into a post, for example. It's still the same content. It's just being presented in a different way. So repurpose and also repost. Sometimes I post the exact same thing, and again, because I'm using Facebook, or I'm sorry, I'm using YouTube and not Facebook or Instagram, I'm not penalized for doing that. So if in fact you're using Facebook or Instagram, you may need to repurpose the content as opposed to just repost it, because their algorithms are going to reward new content altogether. Okay. So that's just something for you to keep in mind as well. Now, one of the things that I want you to do is to, first of all, work from your content pillars. And if you haven't seen the training that I've done on content pillars, I'll link that in the description below. But you should have content pillars that you, in fact, use to connect with your audience. So, for example, with content pillars, it's going to be things that your ideal customer benefits from learning, things that you are in fact able to teach them. So you're going to pull from your content pillars and perhaps come up with, 10 different topics from within those 3 to 4 or 5 content pillars that you have, and figure out of those topics what you're able to create, evergreen content on. What are some of the things that you can, in fact, either share as a tip, or create a frequently asked questions list, or create a resource list, or create a tutorial on? Pick out a few of those. And then what I want you to do is to start thinking about how you can create content. Another thing that you can do is just take a particular question that you get over and over and over again. And then what you're going to be able to do from there is to create content around that. So just keep that in mind. Excuse me. All right. Now, the other thing that you're going to be doing, or that you can do, is you can even turn some of that content that you've created into a PDF or a checklist of some sort, or a guidebook, whatever you want to call it, and that can in fact become a lead magnet that you can use for your audience. So just kind of keep that in mind. There's all sorts of ways that you can create this type of evergreen content. Another way that you can do it, and a great way that I've been able to use, is just focusing on specific keywords that people are going to be searching for. That helps me determine what type of evergreen content that I can create. So I'm going to show you something. Let me share my screen here. And what I'm going to do is show you how I was able to come up with the particular topic for the ebooks. So give me a second to switch over to my screen here. All right. So now that I'm on here, you should be able to see my screen. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. All right. So this tool that I'm using is called vidIQ. And one of the things within vidIQ that it allows me to do is to find the search volume for keywords. A keyword is nothing more than a word or a phrase that people will type into a search engine to find something. Okay. So I'm just going to type into the search box here the word ebook. Okay. And then what it is going to do is to come up with, okay, give me one second, Miss Sheila. I'll answer your question in a second. So, what this is going to do is to tell me What type of search volume for this particular topic is out there? It says 143,000, and the competition is pretty low on this. So now here's the way that I do it. I don't try to go for ebook because I know that that is in fact, this is telling me that it's a great search, searchable tool term. But what I like to do is to come over and find other things. So as I mentioned, I probably wouldn't go for this, but I'll tell you what I might do is go for this, which is how to create an ebook. Now, that is a longer phrase, but here's the thing, it has a lower search volume, but if you'll notice, the search volume on that is 63. And I can tell you that when you go for what's referred to as a long tail keyword, which is what this is, long tail just simply means it has multiple words in the search concept, if you will. Now, if I put in how to create an ebook, I know that almost, well, 10,665 people are searching for this on a monthly basis. That's 120,000 individuals per year. So, what that tells me is that this is a keyword that I could compete on. I could create evergreen content on something like this. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a video, but what I'm showing you are things you can do. Now, ebook cover template, this is another one. This has 1,300. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, 1,300, that's not a whole lot. Actually, a lot of the keyword phrases that I have used to create videos that have in turn allowed me to get a ton of views have had under 2,000 views per month. Here's some others. Now, you notice I'm looking for the ones in green because the ones in green have lower competition, meaning that there aren't as many people that have created content on that so I can compete in that market. And you have to still understand I'm still a fairly small channel. I mean, my channel has less than 6,000 subscribers in it. Doesn't mean only 6,000 people look at my content, but I'm not going to try to compete. That's why I didn't try to compete using this ebook term because there are going to be much larger channels that are going to be able to compete and beat me out on that particular term. All right. So I just want you to see that these longer term keywords are going to be things that I would go for. Now, let's say, and I'm going to show you something. I'm going to uncheck this. Now, what I also want to do, I'm going to keep this one checked and I'm going to click on matching terms. Okay. This is going to bring up even more things that I can actually choose. And so now what I'm going to do, if you give me just one second, I'm going to see whether or not, and I have no idea what's going to happen here, but I am going to go into an incognito window. Okay. And an incognito window is like if you were searching for this. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see. All right, so I've typed that in. And one of the things that you'll see is as you start going through this, you're going to see that these particular videos are popping up. Now remember, this is just like me or just like you searching. Here's my video. Here's one of my videos here. And so this is not being skewed by the fact that I'm logged in because you can see up here. Let's see, let me move this over so that you can see. Okay, that it would allow me, it's still requesting that I sign in. But my point is, some people are finding me just based upon keywords, okay, specific search terms. So don't underestimate the power of using search terms to determine what type of content you should actually be creating. All right, so let me go back and let's see here. All right, let's take a look at, I just want to see here. Give me one second. Let's see. All right, Miss Sheila, you said, have you ever produced a video detailing how you use StreamYard, especially how to share content on your screen? Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Now, I don't use StreamYard. What I'm actually using when I'm creating tutorial style videos is it's called ScreenFlow. It's specifically for Mac users. Okay, and so what that allows me to do is to share my screen, and you're able to see it. So if you take a look at any of the videos that I've created here where you see me, I guess I'm off. Let's change this over. If you take a look at any of these videos that I have created, I'm sorry, I'm having to move things around so you can see things a little bit better. Let's go in this way. There we go. Okay, that will allow you to see it. So, any of these that are part of anything I've ever created, I'm using ScreenFlow on. When I am doing live videos, such as what we're doing today, I'm using a tutorial or I'm using a version of a software called Ecamm. So I don't use StreamYard, but StreamYard is an excellent way of actually doing that. It allows you to create whatever you want to share. It allows you to show your screen. It allows you to do a lot of different things and then upload that. So to answer your question, no, I've never created a tutorial on that, but I will do that because you're probably the 10th person that's asked me that as well. So I should probably make that a priority to do it because a lot of my content also comes from questions that I receive from my audience or requests that have come. So, does that answer your question, Miss Sheila? If so, just drop it into the comment. And again, if you have any other questions on things that you'd like to have me create, by all means, let me know and I'm happy to do that. All right, so just to talk about the best formats again, tutorials, how to guides, educational content. I don't know if I went into that, but educational content is definitely something you should be creating evergreen content around because, again, it's going to be something that people will continuously search for and allow you to be found. Just like you saw when I did the example of showing you how I went into the search engine and so forth. And that's the thing I like about Google and having, content that is keyword driven, if you will, is it's going to bring an audience to you that doesn't know anything about you. And you could do that as a brand new person. Okay. So if you can create content that ranks well in the search engines, Google will start to send you traffic. And you have to remember, Google and YouTube are owned by the same company. I think Google owns YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely do that. Educational content. We talked about frequently asked questions and resource lists, and then also walkthroughs or beginner friendly processes. Beginner friendly processes are gold for education or for educational content and for evergreen content that you can create. All right, we talked about how to get started. Just pick a question that people are asking and go through that. Use keywords. And then the other thing with getting started today with evergreen content, focus on solving a single problem. So if you look at the videos that I've created, they solve a single problem. So in one of the videos in that ebook series, all I talk about is writing your ebook. In the second one, all I talk about is creating a version of your ebook in Canva. In others, I talk about things like selling, how to sell your book. So we just are going through that. In another one, I talk about how to create a clickable table of contents. It's solving one problem. That's what you want to focus on when you do that. And then because you're only focusing on a single problem, now what you're able to do is to create multiple pieces because there are going to be other problems that individuals who are brand new are going to need your guidance on. So just definitely keep that. All right, now here's something I want to ask you all, and if in fact you want to drop this into the chat, by all means do. But have you ever created something evergreen intentionally or by accident? So is that something you've ever done? Because you may very well have content that you've created that can be useful for years to come and didn't even realize it was evergreen content. And if in fact you did, how often are you sharing that? So I would love to know that as well because as I said, oftentimes we don't even realize that the content that we are creating should be shared multiple times so that other people can find it and actually, be able to see what it is that we're doing. All right. Now, I want to give you a couple of other things that you can gift, be able to gift to people, if you will. And what I think is beneficial for someone is any type of a checklist type thing. So, as you're thinking of this content that you're creating, this evergreen content, what can you then lead people to be able to further connect with you? So, for example, if you create a piece of evergreen content on what was my example before, scrapbooking, and you can come up with 10 things that beginning scrapbookers should know, and you could put that into a guidebook or something like that, then by all means make reference to that in your content. So that's your call to action. Your call to action is always going to be do something next. And so if they're watching a tutorial video that you've done, your call to action could be, download my copy, or I've created this beginner friendly checklist that has helped out a lot of individuals. Perhaps it's useful. You'll find it useful as well. Go ahead, click the link in the description box, and you can get your copy there. So that's a call to action. And then what you would do is you would just create a simple landing page if it is something you're giving away free, or if it's something you're selling, you're going to put the link in there and it's going directly to an order page, not to your website, because people get lost on websites. You're sending them from whatever, piece of content you've created directly to that offer page where they can learn a little bit more about it and then input their credit card. Okay. So, yes, Miss Sheila, Ecamm is just for Mac users. So now, what are you a Mac user or are you a PC user? Let me know that. I think I heard somebody say that there is a way to use it on a PC, but I've never tried that. I've actually been a Mac user for a number of years, so I'm not really sure whether or not Ecamm is available for PC users. But my understanding is it's just Mac. All right. So remember, we're talking about leading people to something as after you create that content. So um, as we're going through any of this content, as you're creating it, remember you've got to have some place to actually. Okay, perfect. Thank you. If in fact you want to do a trial for Ecamm, if you're a Mac user, you can click the link in the description of this video, and there's a link to it. And I will, in full disclosure, tell you it is an affiliate link, but I think they have a 14-day trial, and that's exactly what I did. I like Ecamm because for me personally, it's super, super flexible, and you can also use it to record your screen as well, or record videos and so forth. So just check it out and see whether or not it works for you. All right. Okay. So I was starting to talk about having a way to store your content. You have to have a way to store your content so you can easily get to it. So I don't know, for you that might mean something like let's say putting it into folders on your computer. It might mean, and actually in the process of creating something like this, a content bank that you can have using a Trello board, because there are a lot of individuals that, need to be able to see it all in one place. And so that way, when they get ready to pull from something to be able to reuse or repost, they have an easy way to get to it. Another way that you can do it is you can put it into, let's say, a Google Sheets doc, and that way you're able to sort it. You can also put it into just a Word doc, or you can put it into a Google Doc. That's another way. But to me, I don't know about you, I'm very visual, so using Word docs and things like that. And when I say putting it into that, you're really putting kind of a simple description of it, and then a link to where you have it housed, which might be that you have it stored in your Google Drive or something like that, or maybe you have it stored in your Dropbox. So that's another way. But as I said, I'm very visual. So being able to see it on either a Trello board or in a Google Sheet is a better way for me to find it. Then what I'm able to do is find it and then easily repost it. So that's another way. Let's see. Yes, and an ebook on overcoming procrastination. Now that's an ebook I can write. So, because that's something that I deal with, I'm gonna pop that up on the screen because this my goodness. I don't know about you, but I have definitely been one of those people that I can honestly say I know how to do something, I know what needs to be done, but I will procrastinate. And, that's one of the things that I definitely struggle with and have to work on a regular basis. But then I was also the person that the night before a book report was done, I was reading the book and writing the book report. So this is not a new problem. It's something I've been dealing with for years. But yes, I will definitely create something on that and overcoming procrastination. And I think for me, one of the things that I can say about overcoming procrastination is, I finally have to say to myself, okay, let me take what I have to do and let me break it up into steps or, put it into an outline, for example, put it into steps and then just have a goal of saying, okay, by tomorrow I'm going to have this completed. But I have some other things that I've used to do that. So I will definitely do that. And I'll definitely put together I'll even do a video on that as well, because I think many of us struggle with that as well. So if there are any other things that you want to put in or other questions that you have, by all means, drop that in as well. All right. So if there aren't any other questions, I always go through after doing my live streams, and I have just recently started doing live streams, but I really enjoy the interaction that it gives me with members of my audience because it lets me know what you all want. It lets me know the types of things that you're interested in. And I will be perfectly honest with you, some of the best content that I've created has come from suggestions from individuals in my audience. So, okay, Miss Sheila, just a PC. Then StreamYard might be a better option for you. So, and I've, as I said, I've used StreamYard in the past. There's nothing wrong with it. So, by all means, look at that as an option for you as well. Okay. All right. But I was saying that some of the best options or questions have turned into content for me. And you're going to find that as well. So make sure that on a regular basis, you are asking your audience what they want to learn. You're asking your audience, what things they're struggling with, because the same thing's going to happen for you. Some of your best content is going to come from them. Okay. So keep that in mind. Now, as we get ready to wrap this up, as I mentioned, I always like to cover mindset. And this is something that maybe you're struggling with. Maybe you will never struggle with it, or maybe you will struggle with it in the future. But it is comparison. And this is, I want to make sure I put this out there because I get questions about this all the time. And oftentimes, what I'm finding is the questions that people are asking me have something to do with them comparing themselves to someone else. Okay. So I'm trying to think of a question, the way that it's sometimes phrased. How long did it take you to do X? Is a good one. How long did it take for you to get monetized? How long did it take for you to get your first, or get to your first $1,000 or whatever. They're all valid questions, absolutely valid. But sometimes the underlying tone in those questions for people is them comparing themselves to somebody else. And here's what I want to say, and I will always talk about this. The first thing you have to do when you decide you're going to be a solopreneur and you're going to be creating content and ultimately getting to the point of being able to create digital products that you are selling and creating a consistent income on, is you have to stop comparing yourself to other people. Everybody is going to have a different path. Everybody is going to have success at different times. And the other thing that you have to really look at, and you will see this, and it kind of drives me nuts when I see people do this, but sometimes you will have creators say, oh, I made my first $1,000 in 12 minutes and I had just set up my channel. Listen, First of all, probably 0.00001% of people are going to fall into that category. That is not normal. That is not the way it works for most people. And it's not likely to be the way it's going to work for you. That's why you will see people who will start a YouTube channel or they'll start an Instagram account and they're wondering how quickly they're going to be able to get to whatever the subscriber count is or whatever it is. You're going to get there when you're supposed to get there. As long as you keep putting in the work, as long as you keep working to get a little bit better each day, and you're looking, that's why it's important for you to review your content. What could you have done better? How could you have rephrased something? How could you have been clearer for people to understand it? How could you have connected better with the audience? I can tell you for me, this is probably only my fourth live stream. I go back, and as cringy as it is to do, I go back and make myself watch my live streams because I have to figure out what I can do to get better on after each one. And then I make necessary corrections. And I want you to do the same thing. So if you post a piece of content and it just doesn't do well, how could you reuse that? Particularly if you think it's good content. What could you do to make it better? What could you do to make sure it resonates better with the audience? Or was it something that your audience is just flat out not interested in, which means you need to look at something else as well? All right. Another thing is, oh, I'm sorry, Miss Sheila. You said you wrote. Okay, I see. Your book is struggling with procrastination. So you're actually teaching people. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're teaching people how to overcome procrastination. Is that? Let me know if that's what you mean. So, but yeah, so when you're doing this, you have to just focus on what you can do to get better. Now, the other thing too is you have to put it into your brain that the only competition that you really have is who you were yesterday. You're trying to figure out what can you do to get a little bit better. So I always say the competition that you have is who you were yesterday, the person in the mirror. That's the only person that you are going to be competing with. And then the other thing is this: success in a business like this is typically 10 to 15 years in the making. Now, I don't mean 10 to 15 years from today, because you probably have started thinking about this and started working on this 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. That also counts as part of that process. Now, I'm not saying because it's not going to take everyone 10 to 15 years, especially if you have the right people around you and you are committed to the process. You're committed to making mistakes, because that's part of success. You're committed to making mistakes and then, in fact, getting better as a result of that, learning from those mistakes and going forward. So, if in fact you're not where you want to be, just understand that it doesn't matter because you can always make adjustments and get better. It's just like if you think about an airplane, maybe you are well aware of this, maybe you don't know this, but 9 times out of 10 when an airplane takes off, it is off course. For example, if you've ever taken off from LAX flying to the West Coast, more likely than not, they're going to go west, which is doesn't make sense, but they're going to take off going west, make a turn and catch the jet stream and come on back to the East Coast. They're off course when they first take off. You're probably going to be off course as well. But the thing is, you can't use your time frame that you are slightly off course and compare that to somebody else's success. You have to just understand that you'll get there, especially if you're willing to put the work in, especially if you are willing to make the adjustments, and that you understand that failure is part of the process. Okay, a lot of people, unfortunately, when they have a failure, they again look at somebody else and say, well, but they're doing much better, or well, but they didn't seem to have that happen. You don't know what people have gone through. And that's because the average person only actually puts out what I call their highlight reel. And so I'm not a big fan of that either because you have to take people along on the journey with you. Your audience is going to be more appreciative of the fact that you are sharing all aspects. It's just like I shared a post on my YouTube community page after my very first live stream. And let me tell you something, my first live stream was horrible. I mean, absolutely horrible. Everything that could have gone wrong, it went wrong. It just did. And so I shared that though. And the reason I shared what went wrong is I wanted people to know if things are going wrong for them or they've tried something and something went wrong for them, it doesn't matter. Just commit to the process of getting better. And so I shared that and I said, but I'll tell you what, I don't have it in me to quit. So I'll just have to figure it out. And I say that because I can't tell you how many people assume because they've had a failure or something just didn't work that they think they're not cut out for this. No, we all fail. And you're going to fail your way to success. All that failure on a specific aspect of your business means is what you did didn't work. So you have to do something different. You have to try something different. We're in marketing. And marketing is all about trial and error. It's about, doing things. So again, don't take your failure and compare it to somebody else who's having success and assume that, you guys aren't the same or you can't get to where they are. I can assure you, if you sit down and you talk to those people, they will tell you they have had a whole lot of failures. The difference is they just kept going until they figured it out. So I definitely want to make sure that I share these types of things because most of my audience are individuals that are brand new. They're fairly new to this process and they're not yet making a consistent income from their actions and activity. They're not yet posting the type of content that is going to be able to draw in their audience. And so my goal has always been to show you how, through a logical sequential order, how you get to the point of creating a consistent income. And so I'm actually developing something that I call the roadmap to profits. And the reason why I'm developing that is I have learned from talking to people and getting questions that oftentimes brand new people just don't know what they have to do to get to a consistent stream of income. They're doing things out of order or they're leaving things on the table. So for example, if you're brand new and the very first thing you do is you come in and you start creating digital products, well, I'm not saying you can't do that, but I'm going to say there's a much more efficient way of doing that that won't have you relying on selling platforms like Etsy or having to do ads or just having to reduce your products pricing substantially. And so we have to start off with the basics and then build on that. And so I teach first and foremost, you have to have a good content strategy. And so a few weeks ago, I taught, some of the things you can do to start creating a content strategy, which is includes your content pillars and so forth. Then from there, what you're going to start doing is attracting an audience, but you have to be niche. You have to know who it is that you're creating content for. Next, you've got to move people off of those platforms that you found them on and get them onto your email list. Once you do that, now you can start building the know, like, and trust factor by sending them a weekly newsletter, which is focused primarily on being educational and teaching them things. Then from there, you can start polling them because remember, now we've pulled this select group of people off of the platforms and we're connecting with them weekly. And you can ask them, here are some products I'm thinking about creating. What is it that would be of interest to you? And they'll tell you. So now when you create your digital product, you already have a built-in audience and it will sell without you having to use something like Etsy or whatever, where you're going to have to drastically compete with people and you're going to have to drastically reduce the price of your products in most cases. So I know that was kind of off on a tangent, but I want you to get where we're going with all of this. I want you to understand that once you get to the point where you're focused on creating your audience and you're focused on connecting with them on a regular basis and giving them what they want. When you start creating digital products, it's going to be much easier to sell, and you're not going to have to discount your products because the only people seeing your stuff is really your audience, okay? Not, 3,000 people that you're competing with on Etsy who are selling similar types of products, okay? All right. So I just wanted to make sure I addressed that. I know I got a little bit off on a tangent when I started talking about the roadmap to profit, but I want you to understand how this all works and how all of these pieces are coming together. And that evergreen content should definitely be part of your content strategy so you don't have to work as hard, and so you know what type of content you can create that people are going to be able to use and find you as a result of for years to come. All right. Okay. So let me just take a look at if see whether or not there's anything else out there. All right. That's awesome. That one of the tutorials that I teach on is the journey for those that desire to become playwrights. That is awesome. So you'll definitely have to keep me up to date on that. So that's a phenomenal topic. And see, and this is I wanted to make sure I shared that part of it too, because you are teaching something that there are probably lots of people that want to know. And so if you can teach it in such a way that you're connecting with them, they're going to love you for that. And then you can continue to build additional content around that. So, all right. So, unless there are any other questions, I am going to get ready to wrap this up. But just remember, evergreen content is your friend. It will allow you to get, that's going to be the thing that's going to get you off the hamster wheel. And it's definitely going to be the thing that's going to allow you to have content that you can pop in whenever you need to take a break. All right. So, with that, I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I will be back next week, Wednesday at noon Eastern Time, and we'll be covering some additional topics. And I'm always looking for suggestions on things that you would like to learn. I have a whole list of things I want to teach, but that might not be what you're interested in learning. So, by all means, share those with me, and I am happy to create content around that and do a live stream on that as well. So, with that, thanks for being here today, and have a very productive and an awesome week. And I will see you back here next week, Wednesday. All right. Take care and have an awesome day.